Am I going to be able to keep up with everything? Am I going to be able to be a good mom? You know, like those questions that come with first-time motherhood.
New parents are hit with a lot of excitement and anxiety. How medical experts are working to improve the health of mothers and babies.
This is probably the most difficult location that I have lived in order to find childcare.
And when those children grow up, their parents struggle to find someone to take care of them while they work. We break down the efforts leaders are making to improve the childcare industry.
Anywhere where kids are, the bad guys are going to go there. They're going to pretend to be kids themselves.
Teenagers need to be aware of a devastating and in some cases deadly scam. How you can keep yourself and your kid safe.
People want to consume cannabis, so let's ensure that they're consuming safe, tested, quality product.
Virginia considers a major change in cannabis policy, possibly generating billions in state revenue. But it's not without regulatory concerns. We get a look at a current grow facility to learn how the industry is evolving. Those stories are on the way in this Target 7 special.
Thank you for joining us for this Target 7 special on WDBJ 7 Plus. I'm Kate Capodanno.
And I'm Mitch Carr. We recently relaunched our Target 7 brand, putting an emphasis on in-depth storytelling. Over the course of this program, we will highlight a few of our latest pieces impacting our nation, our Commonwealth, and our hometowns.
One of our recent Target 7 conversations focused on the health of our hometowns and the choices people have when starting a family. However, your zip code can be more powerful than your genetic code when determining the health outcomes of mothers and babies. I had the opportunity to explore the growing options found in our hometowns and the statewide effort to make sure the most vulnerable are not forgotten.
You see the camera?
Tiny toes and a gummy smile.
Give me a little movie star.
Little Asa is Sarah Lily's first baby, and she started this new chapter with a familiar set of questions.
Am I going to be able to keep up with everything? Am I going to be able to be a good mom? You know, like those questions that come with first-time motherhood.
However, one question she felt confident answering was where she wanted to give birth. Sarah Lily and her husband were one of the first couples to welcome a baby at Roanoke's newest birthing center called the Genesis Resort for Birth.
One of the biggest things for me is just to create an environment where women feel seen and heard and valued.
Heather Soper is a certified nurse midwife.
So this room is our main birth suite.
And the owner of this facility. So far, Asa is one of 9 babies that has been born at this resort since it opened in August. But with a price tag of nearly $8,000 and out of network of all commercial insurance plans, this choice might be far out of reach for other families. Cost is one reason the Virginia Department of Health is putting a focus on the most vulnerable.
We say this in public health all the time. Your zip code is a far better predictor than your health outcome than your genetic code.
And when you look at the zip codes in VDH's updated maternal and child health indicator dashboard, Roanoke County has hit some shocking numbers. Across Virginia in 2023, the infant mortality rate was 5.8 for every 1,000 live births. In Roanoke County, that rate was almost triple at 14.8. In nearby Bedford County, the infant mortality rate in 2023 was 2.9 for every 1,000 live births, and we still don't have the data for 2024.
I was surprised when our 2023 data came out, and our 2023 data showed an almost 15 per 1,000 live birth rate for infant mortality. That is a very high rate.
Dr. Cynthia Morrow is the health director for Roanoke City and Allegheny Health Districts. That includes Roanoke County. In total, 11 infants died in Roanoke County in 2023. Dr. Morrow dug into the data, hoping to find a connection between the numbers.
We didn't find any one factor that was really surprising to us.
But there were similarities in the infant deaths.
There was a disproportionate number of very low gestational age infants.
That means many of those infant deaths involved babies born prematurely, and in this case, extremely premature, before 28 weeks. However, there is hope. Dr. Morrow and others at the Virginia Department of Health work to bridge gaps through education and intervention so families and infants can have the best outcomes. That includes things like their Safe Sleep program.
The ABCs of safe sleep are the baby sleeps alone, baby sleeps on their back, and baby sleeps in a crib that is free of clutter. So you have to pull up on the middle.
Classes are designed to reach those vulnerable families. But other community health workers also go outside the office to teach healthy habits that can protect mothers and babies. Dr. Morrow does not want to see another double-digit loss of infants like we did in Roanoke County in 2023.
So 11 might not seem like a lot, but to every family, that is a devastating outcome, and it is a lot. And as you said, if we can prevent one infant death, that's amazing. So we want to do whatever we can.
Just like new parents will do whatever they can.
You gonna be a runner or soccer player like your mom and dad?
To make sure these big dreams can become a reality for their little loves.
Virginia has been making the health of mothers and babies a priority the last few years. When Governor Glenn Youngkin was in office, the state dedicated more money for community health workers focused on maternal and child health. Because of that funding, the Roanoke City and Allegheny Health Districts now have 2 new workers on their payroll. Those employees started last year.
And as those babies get older, parents at home might be familiar with the struggle of finding reliable, affordable childcare. It's a critical issue here in our hometowns and beyond. In fact, I spoke with one local mother who told me that finding a daycare that worked for her situation felt like a miracle. I looked into the causes of those difficulties, along with what our lawmakers are doing to help ease the burden.
What is that? That's a camera.
It's pickup time at Little Sprouts of Roanoke, a daycare Lindsay Woods believes she is lucky to have found.
They told me early on, when you get pregnant, go and put her on wait lists at several different places as soon as you can.
And before little Oakland took her first breath, that's exactly what Lindsay did.
I put her on 2 different wait lists when I was in my 2nd trimester. And by the time we were ready to send her, when she was 8 months old, we were not at the top of either of those wait lists.
Woods and her wife had a talk about whether or not they could both work, a scenario many Roanoke families face without affordable child care.
He doesn't want to leave.
Ashley Hartford and her spouse had the same talk. They have 4 kids and have lived all over the country.
This is probably the most difficult location that I have lived in order to find childcare.
One of her older kids was at a preschool she liked in Roanoke, so she signed up her son Finn on the wait list in utero.
He had been on the list for 3 years.
And if you've just moved here from out of town, good luck.
I guess there's just not enough options, or it's not affordable, or there's no spots available.
So why aren't there more daycares? Clearly, there's a need. We asked Chris Foley, who just opened Little Sprouts with his wife Annalie in the middle of last year.
You know, it's a passion project.
It took Chris and Annalie 3 years to open Little Sprouts. The first issue was finding an acceptable space. Foley says they called 30 churches and got 2 responses, one of which was a no. The other came from the church in which he currently sits.
So you have to get the property, and then you have to get it zoned, which for us took almost a year, and then you can file your application with the Department of Education.
And while you wait, there is no money coming in.
Unless you own the property, you're bleeding money. Like every month, it's another check. You're looking at a year of costs before you have anybody come in, any children come in, any money coming in, and then there's still a lot of question marks about what's that money going to look like.
State regulations also determine a lot about the kids the daycare can take. The state requires 1 child care worker for every 4 children under 6 months of age. The state requires any daycare that takes care of kids under the age of 2 to have a door that has direct access to the outside. The problem with the room that they rent in this church is that it's on the 2nd floor. So right away, they know every child they accept must be at least 2 years old.
Watch this.
Watch this.
Foley and his wife are the only full-time employees at Little Sprouts. Because like in many industries, Foley says good help in childcare is hard to find.
Essentially, you could go work a fast food restaurant and make essentially what you're making to work in childcare. Childcare is rewarding, but it's also, you're working with kids and it can be stressful.
Space, zoning, finding qualified employees, keeping those employees in a high burnout job. Then there's the cost to parents out there.
Diamond.
Wow. I'm sure as a parent, you're like writing these checks like, this this place is making money hand over fist, right? But they don't, know, like, I mean, insurance doubled last year.
Do you think that the system for childcare in Virginia is functional?
I don't think that the system for childcare nationwide is functional, truly.
And for a parent, finding a place that you like, that you can afford, that has an open space for your child, well, it's tough enough to make many families just give up.
I believe that it forces a lot of parents to have to make choices about financial situations for themselves that maybe they don't want to have to make.
Lindsay Woods said finding Little Sprouts felt like a miracle.
Absolutely. Huge. Plus, this place is close to home, so that was just an extra bonus. But if it were 15, 20 minutes away, I would still drive her to where it is.
And if you don't have kids and you don't think this is your problem, Woods believes it eventually becomes your problem.
People have to stay home. They have to use their PTO. They can't go on vacation. They get burnt out. It's a domino effect on not just the parent, but everyone around the parent and the parent's coworkers.
And then, of course, there are the children.
If we made sure like all the children between ages 2 and 5 were getting the developmental resources that they need, I think we, across the board, things would be a lot better.
I did a lot of them.
Kids are cute, but they are exhausting. And when they're not your kids, your patience may wear thin.
Childcare is rewarding, but it's also, you're working with kids and it can be stressful. In order to like hire the right person and keep the right person, you have to do your due diligence, but you also have to pay them well enough to make them, want to stay and create the environment to make them want to stay.
It's a problem years in the making that has reached Washington, D.C.
Many times childcare could cost almost as much as college. And yet, at the same time, childcare workers get paid so much lower than traditional work.
Senators Mark Warner and Jim Justice have come together on a bipartisan bill to try and help.
What my tax credit bill will do will go directly to those childcare providers and can only be used for a salary increase for those childcare providers.
In a statement, Justice said that by doing that, quote, we can pay the people who take care of our kids what they deserve while giving our hard-working families some breathing room, end quote. It's called the Child Care Supply Tax Act, and it allows daycare providers to offset on their taxes 5% staff raises in urban and suburban areas and 7% staff raises in rural areas. That's because as bad as the issue is in cities, it's worse in the country. Senator Justice noted that his home state, West Virginia, is mostly rural and told us, quote, providers are spread out. Families have fewer options, and if a daycare closes, there might not be one close by, end quote. Justice continued, saying there is bipartisan support for the bill because it means, quote, paying our hardworking child care workers better so our providers can stay open and provide more options for our families, end quote. Warner and Justice believe if you pay people more, they're more likely to stick around. And if it isn't coming directly from the operator's pocket, then they don't have to pass the cost of the raise along to the parents.
This isn't going to solve every problem, but we have seen communities that when you've got support to move up the pay of the child care provider, that you can actually then see that translated into lower cost for the families who need child care. So step in the right direction.
It all sounds good to Chris Foley at Little Sprouts of Roanoke.
Yeah, of course that's appealing to you. Anytime you're going to get a tax credit for, for being able to raise wages for staff, absolutely appealing.
Foley said cities can help potential daycare operators get open quicker by doing something as simple as publishing a list of requirements for zoning, something that would have saved he and his wife months and thousands of dollars.
You can't. You have to come home with me.
Regardless of what's being done, he's happy something is being done.
It's a business that, is needed everywhere. It's a business that's not available to meet the needs hardly anywhere.
The best tip for parents looking for childcare is not to be deterred by all those wait lists. Almost every daycare has one. And if you don't get on one, you may not find what you're looking for now or later. So sign up. But until something happens at the local, state, or federal level, or all three, this issue will remain a problem for everyone in our hometowns looking for affordable childcare.
And as those children get older and become teens, there is a scam they need to be aware of. It's called sextortion. It targets more than 500,000 teens per year and has led to more than 30 suicides. WDBJ 7's Austin Hicks tells us the scam has been around for decades, but it is now taking off with the growth of the internet.
Bryce Tate was a 15-year-old honor student at Nitro High School in Canal County, West Virginia. He was a popular student, an active member of his church, and had a close relationship with his parent. November 6th of 2025 started as a normal day. Bryce went to school and afterwards went to the gym to go work out. Hours later, Bryce took his own life. Back in 2022, Michigan teen 17-year-old Jordan DeMay was a popular high school athlete, a homecoming king, and was planning for college. After dinner with his family, Jordan went to his room, and the next morning, his family found him dead. He, too, had taken his own life.
And what ties these two teenage boys together is their phones. More specifically, text messages. Sexting messages that turned to threats and became sextortion.
Each case starts innocently enough. A simple greeting from a stranger on social media. Then they say all the right things and make their victim think they are interested in them. The young teens think they're friendly enough and continue the conversation, a conversation that quickly turns sexual. The stranger eventually asks the teen to send them explicit pictures of themselves, and once they have those pictures, the friendly act is gone and is replaced by a predator who is demanding money or even more pictures.
The offenders are going to tell them, I'm going to ruin your life, I'm going to send this to your parents, to all of your friends, to your school, and that child doesn't want that to happen, so they are going to potentially pay that offender or send them more explicit imagery.
Catherine Riffenbark is the director of Cyber Tip Line with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and says in 2024, their hotline received more than 500,000 reports of sextortion scams throughout the country. In 2025, it took only 6 months to match the previous year's numbers. Bryce's parents and friends all said there were no warning signs that led them to believe he would commit suicide. That is until detectives with the Canal County Sheriff's Department searched his phone and found he was a target of a sexual extortion scam known as sextortion.
These situations are really putting a lot of pressure on to those children. Once that child has sent the nude image, the offenders very quickly switch to blackmailing them.
According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the average age of sextortion scam victims is between 14 and 17 years old. In Bryce's case, from the time the first message was sent to his death was less than 3 hours. For Jordan, he was dead in 6 hours. Next, the scammers moved on to their next target, Jordan's girlfriend, sending her threatening text. She took those messages to the police, and the investigation led to 2 brothers in Nigeria. They would be extradited to the United States and would be sentenced to 17 years in prison, something that wouldn't have been possible if Jordan's girlfriend didn't speak up. Captain Steve Anders is the commander of the Southern Virginia Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force station in Bedford County. His division works with law enforcement agencies throughout the country who combat technologically aided child sexual exploitation like sextortion.
Our primary concern here on the state side with the victim is a well check. We want to make sure that child is identified, that they're not having any thoughts of self-harm or suicide, and to make sure the parents are aware so that support can be provided, and to help provide some resources to that child to work through it.
Throughout his years investigating cases, Captain Anders has found clues which could help young adults identify and avoid these predators.
Even if it looks like someone you don't know 100% whether that's actually that person or not. So basically the biggest red flag is if anyone's asking you for nudes, just don't send them. And if you're a child and someone's asking you for that, notify your parents, notify law enforcement so we can investigate that.
During ICAC's thousands of investigations of sextortion, they found the people who perpetrate these scams can be anywhere in the world. They are targeting popular teenagers, threatening to expose them to friends and family. Their demands are not tens of thousands of dollars. Jordan DeMay's demand was over $1,000, and Bryce Tate's demand was only $300. The dollars and fear of public humiliation, too much to take. Throughout his years investigating cases, Captain Anders has found clues which could help young adults identify and avoid these predators.
Most girls, most women are not going to reach out to a young boy and just randomly want to swap nudes. That's your first sign. That just doesn't happen.
With it happening so often, Anders says victims need to step forward immediately.
as embarrassing as it may seem, if a young man, even if he has sent that photo and realizes he shouldn't have, notify law enforcement. That act could actually save someone else's life down the road.
For the families of Bryce Tate and Jordan DeMay, that advice is too late.
Austin Hicks, WDBJ 7.
For people who have fallen victim to a sextortion scam and worry about any images that might be out there, you can visit this story on our website. That's WDBJ7.com. There you will find a link to help take those images off of the internet.
Shifting gears, the Virginia General Assembly is now considering legislation to create a retail marketplace for marijuana. But where will all that cannabis come from? Companies that now supply the market for medical marijuana could deliver a major share. Joe DeShiel takes us inside one of the Virginia facilities producing cannabis in what he calls an eye-opening experience.
We'll peek into the mom room, we'll peek into the propagation room.
If you take the tour with Trent Wolovec, be prepared to cover a lot of ground.
And we'll stop into a couple of the flower rooms.
The chief strategy director for Jushi Holdings, Wolovec, led us through the company's two-story, 100,000 square foot facility near Manassas.
Where are we and what does this represent?
Sure, so this is our mother's room. Here we're able to take clones of each genetic and we'll start a perpetual harvest process.
Wolovec took us through different parts of the building where we saw plants at different stages of development.
Again, we're an agricultural business.
Right.
You don't just turn on a machine and produce more widgets. We have to plan, 6 months in advance for what products we want 6 months in the future.
Ultimately, we also visited areas where the plants are processed and cannabis oil is refined for vapes, gummies, and other infused products.
So here's our gummies. These are the blood orange.
Each plant in the facility is tagged and tracked from seed to sale. And that, says Wolovec, is one of the major advantages of a regulated marketplace.
Everything we have here is independently third-party tested. People want to consume cannabis, so let's ensure that they're consuming safe, tested, quality product.
Wolovec says the current medical cannabis market in Virginia accounts for about $180 to $200 million a year. He says the retail adult use market could be 20 times that.
We know there's a billion plus market that's being served right now by the illicit market. And so there's a $4 billion market opportunity for the Commonwealth when it comes to retail cannabis sales. And so we're looking forward to being a small cog in that marketplace here in Virginia.
Jushi is moving forward with a $30 million expansion of its operation in Northern Virginia, a project that would essentially double its production there. Joe DeShiel, WDBJ 7.
Both the House of Delegates and the state Senate have approved legislation that would create a framework for the retail marijuana marketplace. But there are differences between the two plans, including the start date, the taxes the state would collect, and the fee that medical producers would have to pay to join the retail market. It appears the two bills are headed for conference committee that will attempt to iron out the differences before the General Assembly adjourns in March.
And your hometown station will continue to bring you these exclusive stories.
Each week we have new Target 7 reports, and those debut on WDBJ 7 News at 6.
And we'll be back with another Target 7 Roundup right here on WDBJ 7 Plus. I'm Kate Capodanno.
And I'm Mitch Carr. We'll see you next time.